Hello there, this is Debbie Heiser, and I am so stinking excited to share this new season 4 with you. And I can't believe that this is already the 4th season of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. And I just want to thank each of you who listen. And my hope is that the tools, the thoughts and experiences I share, as well as the work I've done to love myself, love others, and love the work I'm called to do, that also helps me lead a truly lit up life, will help you move into a more lit up life yourself. A few things to look for in this season. Super excited to share that we're going to be coming to you now every week with episodes jam-packed with information to serve you. Every other week, you'll hear from a guest who's leading a life that they love, and I'll be asking them to share their stories, how they got there, and any thoughts or advice that they can give you, our loyal listeners. We have new music too, and I'm so thrilled to introduce this song called Ride, sung and co-written by my friend, Miss Jackie Wilson. And she, along with her collaborators, Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee, are super talented and generous, as this song fits perfectly into the thought of stepping into your best life. To follow any or all of these talented folks, check out the show notes for their social handles. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy season 4 and do us a solid and leave us a rating and a comment to help us be able to share more with people across the globe. Now, let's get started with this episode.
You're the only one who really can transform your mind.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lead Your Lit Up Life with Debbie Heiser. And I cannot tell you how excited I am. I'm like a little kid because you bring that out of me. I am so excited to have my good friend Nicole here with me. She is a lover of life and who I consider one of my 5 people in my envelope. And she is like the epitome of playfulness. And I love to hang out with you, my friend, because I always feel like I laugh when I'm with you. We get serious when we get serious, but you just bring out that little girl in me and allow me to play. And I love that so much about you. And I am so excited to have you here because I want to talk about like the importance of that and how you are such a creative force in the world and how you do that and what lights you up. But we'll get to that here in a minute. So I want you to introduce yourself and tell people how you serve in the world.
Hi, I'm Nicole Huguenin, and when you asked me how I serve in the world, I had the extreme pleasure of being an elementary school teacher for 20 years, and I feel like I served kids. That's who I worked for. I didn't work for the bureaucracy or the government. I worked for the kids, and I feel like it was my calling and my joy to preserve their wonder and imagination as kids, and to foster that and help plant seeds for that to grow with kiddos. And we did a lot of laughing and a lot of fun, and also worked really hard. I graduated in 1993, so that dates me a little bit, from Gonzaga University with a degree in special education, and taught in gen ed most of my career and loved it and utilized all those wonderful skills that I learned to differentiate. And I feel like every human and kids all have strengths and we all have challenges. So I don't know why we have special ed and gen ed. I think every child is unique. Let's see. I don't know.
Well, and if you don't mind, I want to ask you, Nicole, because I know, so part of it is in my mind, like listeners, as you're listening, you've heard me say this before, that innovation, like as leaders and as corporate people, as business owners, we're constantly being told we need to be innovative, right? Which to me is just an adult word for imagination and creativity. Mm-hmm. And I think we lose sight of that because I don't know like why we think it's such a big deal to like tap into our little girl and our little boy, right? Mm-hmm. And I know you and I do this responsible living work together too, but you did like a really unique program in Idaho. It was kind of a pioneering program, wasn't it? Tell us about that.
We called it the Experiential Learning Program, and it was a multi-age. So we had 1st through 6th graders all in one room, and people liken it to the one room schoolhouse. Mm-hmm. But it was, we really valued social emotional learning, project-based learning or project-infused experiential learning, and we were academically rigorous also. So, and I think our school and school district came up with the idea to provide families options because not everybody wants traditional education. So I called it my daytime family. I was like their daytime mama, and we just had a blast. And like I said, it's really my life's purpose to preserve that inner child and that wonder in kids. So we had a great time, hands-on learning. And if anybody cares, our academic scores were off the charts because kids wanted to come to school. They didn't want to go home at the end of the day. I remember looking at my teacher partner like, are you seeing this? Oh my gosh, they don't want to go home. Like, this is so cool. So it was really an exciting, pioneering program.
So Nicole, is that program still going on, or did it end when you left?
No, it's still going on.
Okay.
They now have 2nd through 6th graders with 2 teachers and 1 full-time paraprofessional.
Yeah.
And it's still going on. I'm still very close with the teachers there, and I'm going to actually be doing an arts integrated geography, some lessons with them this spring. I miss being with kids, and it keeps me relevant and fresh to be in the classroom. So
Excuse me as I cough. Yeah, that is so fantastic. And now you're working with adults. And I know sometimes, because I was a trainer and in charge of training departments, and I said we taught children and adult bodies. And, not as a judgment, but just, like, really, we all do have that little child in us. And so what have you found that transfers? And then I'm going to ask you what you found to be the most challenging too.
I think just validating and listening like I did in the classroom with these adults. They're under teachers, we call them facilitators in my company, are under so many pressures right now with COVID and with state testing and with the demands of all the social emotional challenges our kiddos are going through. So I really work on being mindful of that because I know how it felt to have a trainer come in and be clueless, and it wasn't very fun. So it's a balancing act though, to be mindful, but then also raise the bar a little bit and give some more options for teaching and for learning. So,
and what have you, not necessarily, I mean, when I say this, I don't mean just in your day job of what you do, but you work with a lot of adults in a lot of different realms.
Oh, okay.
And so, no, that I was asking specifically about what transferred into what you do now, but now, like, when you think about working with adults, not only like in the emotional work that we do in responsible living, but also in the job that you have today, helping facilitators that are teachers, but you call them facilitators in your company. What have you found to be the most challenging?
I think the fear, I think that's always the most challenging. People are afraid. They're afraid of looking stupid. They're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of taking risks that might not pay off. And that's challenging, but it's not something that is insurmountable. I think, just being there and being a listener to the people I work with in responsible living. I mean, people have gone through a lot of trauma. I mean, it's real. And so being a good listener helps with that. But yeah, getting through that fear bubble, if you will, is challenging. But I think just being gentle and also setting up some boundaries with people for how I want to be treated. I teach people how to treat me. So setting up those boundaries is really important, but also just being, a good listener, because there is a lot of fear out there.
So let's talk about that, Nicole. Give the listeners some examples and maybe some like actions of because some people that might be a new concept for them, teaching people how to treat you. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Like, how does somebody go about doing that?
Well, can I say bad words on this?
Yes,
podcast?
You can.
So I was at a personal growth workshop a few years ago, and this woman kept saying, "Hey, bitch, how you doing, bitch? How's it going, bitch?" And I thought, I worked really hard not to be a bitch anymore. I used to be. And I said to her, this is how I taught her how to treat me. I said, I feel frustrated when you keep calling me bitch. And I said, it's derogatory in my eyes. And my request is that you call me by my name or my nickname, but please stop calling me a bitch. And she wouldn't, like, she kept doing it. And finally I had to say, hey, I don't like this. It doesn't feel good. And if you can't stop, then I don't want to talk to you anymore. So I set up a boundary and I was gentle. I wasn't being a bitch, but she came to me later on in tears and she goes, I didn't realize how often I use that to put off people, like as a defense. And I said, wow, thanks for sharing with me. So that's a small example of how I teach people how to treat me, but it's in all lots of different ways I've done that over the years. And it can be gentle, or I have to be really firm with a boundary or be consistent, or even like I've cut someone out of my life that was pretty toxic that I just blocked. I can't have any contact. I won't.
Yeah.
So there's many levels of that. Does that?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about what you just said is to that point that there's many different levels and there's many different ways to do that. And, you know, one maybe side of the polarity, the law of polarity, is cutting someone completely out, and others like just gently saying to them, please stop doing that. Right.
Yeah.
But what I love too, and I don't remember the exact words that you just used, but you talked about, hey, I don't like it when, because it makes me feel this way. And I'm requesting that you do it differently, right? And you didn't say do it differently, but you specified what that looked like. And I think that's a really good, I know that's part of, you know, some of what we learn in this responsible living piece. I should give people the website to that so that they can sign up, because I talk about it so much. But that's a really good tool, right? To say, hey, I don't like it when you do this because it makes me feel this way, and I'm requesting, and I might have the words slightly off. So
yeah, I don't think anyone can make me feel a certain way. I just say,
good point.
I feel frustrated, or I feel like it's a put down, or it feels off-putting to me or something.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
That's a subtle but really important point.
Well, it took me a long time to figure that one out, like, because otherwise I'm a victim to other people. Like if they have the power to make me feel a certain way, then I'm playing the victim game. So
true. Nicole, see, I learned something from you every day. And I always say words are important. And so that's a really good, thank you. Because that's a good wake-up call to that. So tell me, like, what got you to, like, what led you to teach?
Oh gosh, I think I was just born a teacher, and I know that sounds kind of funny, but I have a huge family, and I was always in charge of the little kids, or even the older kids, organizing, singing, sing-alongs, craft experiences. And I remember when I was 5 years old, Art Cook took my training wheels off and taught me how to ride my little purple bike on 2 wheels without the training wheels. And my best friend Piney at the time had a twin purple bike with training wheels. So I found the tools and took her training wheels off at 5 or 6 years old and taught her how to ride her 2-wheeler without training wheels, because we would ride laps around our block. You know, we weren't allowed to go on the street, but we'd ride a lot of laps. So that's the first time I remember teaching. And I think more than being a teacher is just my love of kids and how just wondrous they are, and how creative and so imaginative and joy filled. And like, you see kids like dancing down the street without a care in the world. I mean, that's just joy. And they're also authentic. If they feel sad, they're going to let you know. If they're mad, they're going to let you know.
So true.
So I've always just had an affinity towards children, and then made it my life's purpose to help them grow and learn.
So other than the obvious things that I know I've experienced with you, like getting me to dress up as a pirate on Halloween and tap into that little girl, tell me, and I'm being very sly, but trying to be specific here with you without giving it away to the listeners before you tell them.
Okay.
I know you do this on vacation.
Oh yeah.
What are some ways that you help complete random strangers tap into their childlike heart?
So I have this giant pair of monarch butterfly wings that fold down. It's beautiful material, and with little tent poles, if you will, that you stick in the wings to make them extend. And I told she was 22 at the time. I told my daughter that I was taking my wings to Mexico on vacation, and she's like, "Oh, Mom." And I said, "And I'm going to do a TikTok channel with them." I don't even know if it's called a channel, but she's like, Mom. And she just was a little bit mortified, but then thought it was hysterical. So I took my butterfly wings to Mexico and had my stepmom video me on the beach with them. And it was just a stretch for me. And then I watched people and I could just see some people just lit up. So I'd hold them out to them and they'd put them on and it was just magical, like complete strangers. This 70 something year old man from Canada that had just retired, they sold everything and were moving to Mexico. He put them on. And then a woman who was from Mexico, she wore them and she got tears in her eyes. She goes, I just love these. And then another woman from Wisconsin put them on. Well, she had a little tequila on board, but that helped. But she put them on and I asked her if I could post her video and she said, oh no. And then I showed her the video and she goes, I've never felt so beautiful in my life. So it's a stretch for me to approach strangers, but it's also bringing joy and that playful inner child heart and wonder. And it was just so fun in Mexico because they, relish the monarch butterflies because they migrate there and it's a big part of their culture. And
yeah. And Nicole, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I think about those 3 stories that you just said. And my bet would be that if someone asked them pivotal things that happened in their lives that caused a transition or a shift in them, I bet they would come out and talk about those wings.
oh,
It gives me goosebumps thinking about you and watching, and I watched some of the videos and seeing like just the entire transformation happen on people's faces and their whole bodies, right? It was like this relaxation thing that they relaxed into and kind of look at me. I'm like, even trying like float into these wings. Right. And to me, that's the beauty of what you tap into, no matter what you're doing, whether you're working with kids, whether you're working with adults. And so tell us a little bit more too, because like you've even inspired me to paint and do some things, and you have some hopefully show and tells. And I know some people are listening to this, so you won't be able to see it unless you go to YouTube, but you have just some of the most adorable, like I have stickers all over my office. Here's one of them. But like, talk about some of the work that you've done and what has inspired you to be a creative.
Oh gosh. Well, inspired my mom when we were little. I have 5 siblings. There are 5 girls and a boy in my family. She always provided us with art supplies. A ream of white typing paper was one of the most utilized one. But she gave us that exposure to creativity. She had a stage built in our basement. It was just wood.
No way.
And linoleum. Yeah. And there's a trap door in it that goes to a little playhouse. And we had some spotlights. They were just lights on dimmers. And she bought an old theater curtain from a theater that had upgraded their curtains. And we had a lot of old lady costumes and wigs. And so we would put on plays and a lot of Catholic weddings because we were raised Catholic. And we would sell tickets to our neighbors and they would come. But just the creativity, I think she was just trying to survive having 6 kids too. But she exposed us to the arts. We always sang in the car. My grandpa and grandma were big singers. And anyway, so that I think was my foundation. And then it's always been a great escape for me to play with creativity. Like I wouldn't say I'm maybe, I don't know if some gallery wants to show my work, but I have fun just making art. And if it doesn't look good, I just throw it away or reiterate it. But so, and I think you were talking about my lovies. I came up with these during COVID. Here's one of them.
I love, so for those of you listening, it's like this like furry sponge looking dude with a rainbow and horns. Like, yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that one with the little birds.
So these kind of came to me. I was tasked to do some art lessons for my company, the Maker Learning Network, during COVID so that families could play the video. So I came up with these lovies. I call them lovies because that's like an anchor toy for babies and kids.
Yeah.
When they're little, their blankie or their stuffy is a lovey.
Right.
And they just looked like enduring little guys. And then I added some leaves with some cardboard. These are just on canvas with watercolor and acrylic and markers. And I like to play with different.
Oh, I haven't seen that one either.
He's kind of they call him
Yeah.
tie-dye. Some people have called him tie-dye, but yeah, I've been playing a lot lately. These are my funky chickens that I've been doing.
And we're like, seriously, like, I know your mom inspired this, but like, do you feel like you have to be in a zone to create, or do you look at all those mushrooms? Those are beautiful. You guys that are listening, you need to go to YouTube and look at these.
I think I do a lot of artwork when I'm in Zoom meetings because it's really hard for me to just stare at a screen that long. So I'll doodle and draw, and I made some of these during a Zoom meeting, these little magic boxes. I think I gave you one of these.
You did, the mermaid.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
the mermaid.
I love them. Yeah.
So these are super fun, but I think it's just a creative outlet for me. And I quit drinking about 8 months ago, and I've been even more creative since I did that. So you should see my desk area. I've got art supplies everywhere. So,
okay, well, I need to come visit your little
yes,
cabin.
you do. That'd be so fun.
Nicole lives on this little cabin on the lake in the mountains, and it's pretty awesome out there.
It's pretty magical.
And I want to ask too, because you do, like, one of the things that I think are so cool is you help people help their kids tap into their creativity. Like, how many mud kitchens have you gotten your male friends to help build?
Oh God, and some female friends. I've done a couple. I was inspired by our school. I lead Agua Dulce in California. They have a magical play-based learning outdoor classroom. So they have an amazing mud kitchen with expired spices and flowers and mortars and pestles. Like, people donate their bouquets after they've gone dead, for the kids to crush up and to mix.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I got to build a mud kitchen in Kauai at one of our schools there, and several around here. My neighbor, I kind of browbeated him, if that's a word, gently but forcefully encouraged him to put one at his campground. And
oh, nice.
And they were like, no one's gonna play with that. And it's adults, kids, teenagers have all played with it. It's been super fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and these nature kitchens or mud kitchens don't have to cost anything. You can make them out of an old pallet, or get some old pots and pans from your cupboard that you're not using anymore. Wooden spoons are awesome. And the main reason I do them, it's called a provocation. When you set up something, like before my nieces come over, I line up the dinosaurs and I bring out the mud kitchen, and I just set up little areas. I put some markers out and some white paper or whatever, and those are called provocations, and it's an invitation to play is what it is. And I think the adults have more fun, or as much fun as the kids, because the kids, at least in my little realm, expect it, but the adults are like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. I said, get in there, play, make some mud pies.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Well, I know I so much appreciate you in my life. And for those of you listening, I would suggest to you and highly encourage you to tap into, whether you want to call it innovation or imagination or creativity, and do something creative. A lot of times, Nicole, I recommend to my clients that haven't tapped into that creativity in a long time to go get finger paint.
Yeah.
And paint on finger paint, because it's so much more tactile, and it really brings out a lot of critical parents sometimes, and just awareness of where we stop ourselves from being creative. And I can't wait to see what happens in your world with all of your creativity. And I know I need a creativity fix here pretty soon, so I'm gonna invite myself to your little creativity cabin.
Time. And I think it's a matter of us as adults giving ourselves permission to play, because I think when we think about drawing or doing a painting, we think it's supposed to look like something Monet did or Picasso, but actually it can look awful and you can throw it away or burn it. You don't have to put it up anywhere. It's just the process of creating that's where the magic is. So
yeah. And you know what, Nicole, you make me think. When I first moved to Sandpoint, one of the things that we did for my birthday was we went to an art studio here that's not here anymore, and there was a big group of us that did kind of like one of those sip and paint things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually still have my ex-husband's and my son's and mine hanging up in my closet. And that's where I tend to put like the things that I've done some creativity that mean a lot to me in my heart, but that I don't necessarily want everybody else to see, but I see it every day because I go into my closet every day. And so it invokes those memories. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, Nicole, let me ask you one last question here. What lights you up, my friend?
Oh gosh. Making art, and I think one of my favorite things in the world to do is a sing along, or to sing with my family, to sing in the car. But I just love making music with people, and even if it doesn't sound good, it's so fun. That lights me up. And hanging out with my little niecelets, that lights me up. Oh gosh, building and installing play kitchens and watching a little kid just totally get involved in cooking, and that lights me up. And dancing, I think all the arts.
Yeah. I was going to say, I see you at your best there.
Supporting people with the responsible living 10-week class. I'm volunteering again, and watching people who are in a lot of pain when they break through some of that and access some inner peace and some joy and access their child heart. And I think that's magic too. And my job, I have the extreme awesome job of getting to share creativity with teachers and kids all over the United States. So that's amazing. So
yeah, that's so awesome. And I will say too, Nicole, I want to point out to the listeners, if anybody is interested in finding out more about responsible living, I know I talk about it in a lot of my podcasts. I talk about a lot of the concepts. We've talked about the inner family, the victim game. I've talked about the 12 principles. If you have a desire to learn more about that, Jeannie Burgess, who is kind of the owner of that here and kind of the cornerstone of that, also does them with people over the phone. You don't have to be local to Sandpoint, but if you'd like to know more about that, please reach out to me through my website, and I can get you in touch with them for sure. And Nicole, if somebody wants to follow you and your Monarch Wings or the artwork that you're doing, is there any place you would point them to?
Well, I'm on TikTok, to my daughter's mortification, as Nicole Hug, Nicco. I accidentally got an extra C in there. Hug. So they can follow me on TikTok, or I'm on Instagram, I think is the same name, Nicole Hug. So
okay, awesome. And do you have pictures out on Instagram of some of the Monarch?
Yeah, some of the Monarch stuff is on Instagram and
fantastic.
TikTok, definitely.
I'm going to go out and rewatch those because they're so inspiring. So
I got on TikTok because our middle schoolers were wreaking a bit of havoc on TikTok. So I had to find out what it was all about. And it's so fun. I learned a lot of resources.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's one piece of social media I haven't gone out too much, because I hear people talk about how they can get addicted to watching all the videos after a while too. So yeah, I have to watch that. So
I think it's a relatively healthy escape if you have some boundaries. But sure. I showed my stepmom TikTok, and she was up till 3 a.m.
Oh, that's
on vacation, but it was so funny.
That is funny. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for your time today and for talking about creativity. It's such an important aspect, I think, to who we are as people. I know it's been an important aspect for me, and I think I speak for you saying it's been important to you too, because you exude that. So I thank you so much for being on. And for those of you listening, if you would like to talk to me more about how you can step into your lit up life, please go out to my website at www.leadyourlituplife.com and sign up for a free clarity call. What do you got to lose? And with that, it's a wrap. We'll talk to you next week. Find your own kind of happy.